The conquest that never was Commander Velrith stood on the observation deck of the warship Eternal Dominance, watching the blue and green planet rotate slowly before him. Earth, the third planet in a system these humans called Sol. His tactical display showed a civilization barely a century into their industrial age, just now reaching out to touch their own moon with primitive rockets. The Kryn. Dominion had done this 47 times before. A new species develops space travel, and the Dominion arrives to offer them a choice: join peacefully and prosper under Dominion guidance, or resist and face conquest. Most species chose peace. The ones that resisted never lasted more than a few weeks. Velrith adjusted his ceremonial armor, the silver plates catching the light from the distant sun. He was not a warrior by nature. The Kryn had evolved past such primitive instincts thousands of years ago. He was an administrator, a manager of transitions. His role was to make conquest as painless as possible for everyone involved. His second officer, a young Kryn named Thisa, approached with a data tablet. She had just finished analyzing Earth's communications and cultural databases. Commander, the preliminary report is complete. The humans are fragmented into approximately 195 separate political entities. They have no unified government, no single military command structure. Their technology is inconsistent across different regions. Velrith nodded. This was actually good news. Fragmented species were easier to manage. You could negotiate with each faction separately, play them against each other if necessary. Some would accept Dominion rule immediately. Others would follow once they saw the benefits their neighbors received. What about their military capability? Velrith asked. Primitive by our standards. They still use chemical propellants for most weapons. Their largest military powers possess nuclear weapons, but nothing that could threaten our fleet. Their space presence is minimal: a few satellites, some research stations. No orbital defenses worth mentioning. And their culture? Thisa hesitated. That is where the data becomes concerning, Commander. The humans have an extensive history of warfare. They have been fighting each other continuously for their entire recorded history. The scale of their conflicts is unusual for a species at this development level. Velrith waved a hand dismissively. All species go through a period of internal conflict before achieving unity. The Kryn did. The Varith did. It's a natural part of evolution. Once they see the benefits of joining the Dominion, their tribal instincts will fade. Yes, Commander, but there is something else. Human warfare is exceptionally violent. They have documentation of conflicts that killed tens of millions of their own kind. They developed nuclear weapons and used them against each other. They have created chemical and biological weapons designed specifically to cause maximum suffering. Used against each other, Velrith emphasized. That is the key point, Thisa. They fight among themselves because they have no external threat to unite them. We will become that external threat. It will bring them together under Dominion leadership. Thisa did not look convinced, but she nodded and returned to her station. Velrith opened a communication channel to Earth, broadcasting on all frequencies the humans used for their primitive radio networks. He had prepared his speech carefully, using translation software to render his words in the humans' most widely spoken languages. People of Earth, I am Commander Velrith of the Kryn Dominion. We represent an alliance of 47 species spanning this region of the galaxy. We come to offer you a place among the stars. Join us peacefully, and we will share our technology, our knowledge, and our protection. Refuse, and we will be forced to bring you into the Dominion by other means. You have 72 hours to respond. The response came in less than 20 minutes. A human appeared on the communication screen. He was elderly by human standards, with white hair and deep lines in his face. He wore a formal suit and sat behind a large wooden desk. The translation identified him as the leader of one of Earth's more powerful nations. Commander Velrith, I am President Harrison. I speak on behalf of the United Earth Coalition, a group representing the majority of our planet's governments. We appreciate your offer, but we need to understand what joining the Dominion would mean for us. What exactly are you proposing? Velrith smiled. This was going exactly as planned. The humans wanted to negotiate, which meant they were already accepting the inevitable. We are proposing full integration into Dominion society. Your people would have access to our technology, education, and resources. In exchange, you would accept Dominion governance, follow Dominion law, and contribute to Dominion defense and prosperity. President Harrison was quiet for a moment. So we would lose our sovereignty, our independence. You would gain something far more valuable: membership in a civilization that spans dozens of worlds. Your people would no longer be alone in the universe. I see. Commander, we need time to discuss this among ourselves. 72 hours is not enough for a decision of this magnitude. I can extend the deadline to 1 week, Velrith offered. But understand that this offer will not remain open indefinitely. We understand. Thank you, Commander. The communication ended. Velrith felt satisfied. The human leader had been polite, reasonable, and clearly intimidated. Within a week, Earth would agree to join the Dominion. Another successful integration without a shot fired. 6 days later, President Harrison contacted Velrith again. Commander, we have reached a decision. The United Earth Coalition must respectfully decline your offer. We wish to develop as an independent species. However, we would be interested in establishing diplomatic and trade relations with the Dominion as equals. Velrith felt a flicker of disappointment, but not surprise. Some species needed to experience Dominion strength firsthand before accepting reality. I am sorry to hear that, President Harrison. You understand what this means? We do. We are prepared to defend our sovereignty. The communication ended. Velrith turned to his tactical officer. Begin occupation procedures. Standard protocol. Land forces at their major military installations. Disable their communication networks. Show them that resistance is futile. Minimize casualties. These will be our citizens soon enough. The fleet moved into position. Velrith had 15,000 ground troops, fully equipped with plasma weapons, energy shields, and powered armor that made each Kryn soldier effectively invincible against primitive human weapons. The humans had millions of soldiers, but numbers meant nothing against superior technology. The first landing site was a massive military complex the humans called Fort Davidson, located in the center of a large continental landmass. Intelligence suggested it was a command center for one of Earth's most powerful military forces. The Kryn dropships descended through the atmosphere, their shields glowing as they absorbed defensive fire from human anti-aircraft weapons. The projectiles bounced off harmlessly. Within minutes, 3,000 Kryn soldiers had deployed around the base, establishing a perimeter. Velrith watched through the command feed as his forces advanced on the base. The humans had erected barriers and defensive positions. Some were firing their chemical weapons at the Kryn soldiers. The rounds sparked off energy shields without effect. Broadcast surrender terms, Velrith ordered. Give them a chance to stand down. The message went out in the human languages. The firing stopped. For a moment, Velrith thought they had surrendered. Immediately and the screaming started. It came through the audio feeds from his soldiers' helmets. Not screams of pain, but something else. Human voices, dozens of them, screaming wordlessly as they charged the Kryn positions. Velrith leaned closer to the display, trying to understand what he was seeing. The humans were attacking, not with military precision or coordinated tactics. They were simply running at the Kryn lines, still screaming, firing their weapons wildly. Some were not even in proper military uniforms. They wore mismatched armor and carried weapons that looked handmade or modified far beyond their original specifications. "Commander, the humans are attacking our positions," his tactical officer reported unnecessarily. "Use non-lethal force. Stun them. We need them alive." The Kryn soldiers activated their stun weapons, firing pulses of electromagnetic energy designed to disrupt the nervous system and cause temporary paralysis. The first wave of humans went down. The second wave kept coming. They ran over the bodies of the fallen, still screaming. "Why are they not stopping?" Thesa asked, her voice shaking slightly. Velrith had no answer. This was not how species behaved when facing superior force. They were supposed to recognize the futility of resistance and surrender. One human got close, enough to a Kryn soldier to attack with a blade. An actual blade in modern warfare. He stabbed the weapon through a gap in the armor before being stunned. The Kryn soldier collapsed, wounded but alive. More humans reached the Kryn lines. They fought with blades, with their hands, with improvised weapons. The Kryn soldiers switched to lethal force, plasma beams cutting through human bodies. The humans kept coming. "There is something wrong with them, Commander," a squad leader reported, his voice tight with something Velrith had never heard from a Kryn before. "Fear. They are not fighting like soldiers. They are not even trying to survive. They are just attacking." Velrith pulled up the biometric data from his soldier scanners. The readings on the humans were abnormal. Their heart rates were far beyond what should be sustainable. Their pain response was suppressed. Their brain activity showed patterns that the computer could not classify. "Scan one of the fallen humans. I want to know what is wrong with their biology." The scan results came back quickly. The captured human's bloodstream was flooded with naturally produced chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, endorphins. His body had essentially drugged itself, shutting down pain receptors and fear responses while dramatically increasing strength and aggression. "This is a natural response?" Velrith asked in disbelief. "According to the data, yes, Commander. When threatened, humans can trigger this response deliberately or automatically. It makes them significantly more dangerous for a short period." The battle continued for another hour. The Kryn eventually secured the base, but the cost was staggering. They had lost 143 soldiers, killed by humans who should not have been able to harm them at all. Velrith ordered the surviving humans to be collected and interrogated. There were 23 survivors out of approximately 200 defenders. The humans had fought with a 90% casualty rate without surrendering. One of the prisoners was brought to Velrith's flagship for questioning. He was a male human, probably in his third decade of life, with scarring on his face and arms. He wore clothing marked with human prison identification numbers. "You are a criminal," Velrith said, reading the translation of the markings. The human smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "Was a criminal? Now I'm a soldier. Funny how that works. Why did you attack us? You had to know you could not win. Winning was not really the point, alien. The point was making you hurt. The point was showing you that taking Earth is going to cost you more than you want to pay. You died for nothing. We captured the base anyway. Did we die for nothing?" The human leaned forward as much as his restraints allowed. "How many of your people did we kill? How many are scared right now, wondering if the next base will be the same? How many are starting to think maybe Earth is not worth the trouble?" Velrith said nothing. The human was right. Already, several of his soldiers had requested transfers off the occupation force. Others were reporting nightmares, anxiety, symptoms the Kryn had not experienced since they evolved past their primitive tribal stage. "Who are you?" Velrith asked. "What did you do to become a prisoner?" "Murder. 7 pounds. I was going to spend the rest of my life in a concrete box. Then the government came to the prison and offered us a deal. Fight you aliens, and maybe earn our freedom. Maybe die in battle instead of rotting in a cell. Easy choice. Your government sent criminals to fight us? Not just criminals. They cleaned out the prisons, the psychiatric hospitals, the maximum security facilities. All the people who were too violent, too unstable, too dangerous for normal society. They gave us weapons and pointed us at you. The human smile grew wider. You are not fighting Earth's army, Commander. You are fighting Earth's monsters. And we are very happy to be here. Velrith ended the interrogation and returned to his command center. He pulled up the tactical reports from the other landing sites. The pattern was the same everywhere. Human defenders fighting with suicidal aggression. Kryn casualties far beyond projections. Several landing sites had been completely overrun. The Kryn forces wiped out by human attacks that defied all military logic. Thisa approached him quietly. Commander, we are receiving requests to withdraw from 12 different unit commanders. They say their soldiers cannot continue. The humans are too unpredictable, too violent. Several Kryn have suffered psychological breaks. We have been here for less than 48 hours, Velrith said. How is this possible? The humans are not fighting a conventional war, Commander. They are fighting to terrify us, to make us afraid of them. And it is working. Velrith looked at the blue planet on his display. Beautiful and deadly. He thought about the human prisoner's words. Earth's monsters, unleashed with permission to do what they did best. For the first time in his career, Velrith wondered if the Dominion had made a terrible mistake. The occupation of Earth had only just begun, and already everything was going wrong. When demons wear dog tags 3, months had passed since the Kryn Dominion began their occupation of Earth, and Commander Velrith had aged in ways that had nothing to do with time. The silver in his crest had dulled. His movements were slower, more cautious. He had developed a habit of checking the shadows in his own command center. Even though he knew it was secure, the war was not going according to any plan the Dominion had ever conceived. On paper, the Kryn were winning. They controlled 37 major military installations across Earth. They had destroyed significant portions of human military infrastructure. Their forces outnumbered the human defenders in every engagement. But none of that mattered because the Kryn soldiers were breaking. Velrith sat in his private office reviewing the latest medical reports. In the past week alone, 847 Kryn soldiers had been removed from combat duty due to psychological trauma. They reported nightmares, paranoia, panic attacks, and something the medical staff called anticipatory fear response. They were terrified of the next engagement with human forces, even though they knew they possessed superior technology and firepower. The problem was simple and terrible. The humans fought like nothing in Dominion records. They did not retreat when outmatched. They did not surrender when surrounded. They did not value their own lives enough to make rational tactical decisions. Every battle became a horror show of human bodies charging into plasma fire. Human voices screaming challenges and insults. Human fighters using their last moments of life to inflict one more casualty on the Kryn. A chime sounded at his door. Thisa entered, carrying a data tablet and wearing an expression of deep concern. Commander, we have received a communication from Earth's government. They are requesting a formal meeting. They say they want to discuss terms. Velrith felt a surge of hope for the first time in months. They are ready to surrender? They did not use that word, Commander. They said they want to explain something to you. They insist you meet them in person at a neutral location. Every instinct told Velrith this was dangerous. But he was desperate for any kind of resolution that did not involve watching more of his soldiers break down mentally. He agreed to the meeting, The location was a human structure they called the United Nations Building, located in a city called New York. The building had been damaged during the initial invasion, but remained partially functional. Velroth arrived with a security detail of 20 soldiers, all of them nervous despite their superior weapons. The human delegation was already waiting. President Harrison sat at the head of a long table, flanked by military officers and government officials from various Earth nations. They all wore formal attire, and their expressions were carefully neutral. "Commander Velroth, thank you for coming," Harrison said, gesturing to a seat across from him. "Please sit. We have much to discuss." Velroth sat cautiously, his security team taking positions around the room. "You said you wanted to explain something. I assume you are ready to discuss surrender terms." "No, Commander. We want to explain why you should surrender." The room went silent. Velroth stared at Harrison, certain he had misunderstood the translation. Asterisk, "Your forces outnumber ours." Harrison continued calmly. "Your technology is superior. By all conventional military analysis, you should have conquered Earth in a matter of weeks. But here we are, 3 months later, and you control less than 5% of our planet. Your soldiers are suffering psychological casualties at a rate that exceeds your combat losses. Do you know why? Because your people fight like madmen," Velroth said bitterly. "You throw away lives without strategy or purpose." "No, Commander. We fight with very specific strategy and very clear purpose. We just do not fight the way you expect." Harrison activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air between them, showing scenes from Earth's history. "This is what you need to understand about humanity. We come from a planet that has been trying to kill us since we first stood upright. Everything on Earth is either poisonous, venomous, predatory, or parasitic. Our planet has gone through 5 major extinction events: ice ages, volcanic catastrophes, asteroid impacts. And somehow we survived all of it. The images shifted to show human warfare, ancient battles with primitive weapons, medieval sieges, world wars with millions of casualties. We survived by becoming the most dangerous thing on our planet. We did not evolve claws or armor or venom. We evolved something far more deadly: the ability to adapt, to innovate, and most importantly, to refuse to give up even when giving up is the rational choice." "This is not news to me," Velroth interrupted. "I have read your history. You have been killing each other for thousands of years. It proves my point. You are a violent, irrational species." "Exactly," Harrison said, and he smiled. "And that is why you cannot defeat us. Because you are rational, Commander. You calculate acceptable losses. You make strategic decisions based on cost versus benefit. You retreat when a position becomes untenable. We do not." One of the military officers, a stern woman with gray hair and numerous medals on her uniform, spoke up. "Commander Velroth, let me ask you a question. What would you do if you knew you were going to lose a battle? If your forces were outnumbered and outgunned, and victory was impossible?" "I would retreat to preserve my forces for a more favorable engagement," Velroth answered immediately. "Of course you would. That is logical. That is what any sane military commander would do." The woman leaned forward. "Humans do not do that. When we know we are going to lose, we fight harder. We take as many enemies with us as possible. We make sure that even if you win the battle, you lose so much that it feels like a defeat." "I have seen this," Velroth said quietly. "Your defenders at Fort Davidson. They sacrificed themselves for no tactical gain." "No tactical gain?" Harrison raised his eyebrows. "Commander, that battle changed everything. Before Fort Davidson, your soldiers thought humans were primitive and weak. After Fort Davidson, your soldiers were afraid. Fear is a weapon, Commander. Perhaps the most effective weapon we possess. Velrith wanted to argue, but he could not. Harrison was right. The Kryn forces had been psychologically damaged by that first engagement in ways that 3 months of subsequent battles had only reinforced. "Let me show you something else," Harrison said. He gestured, and the holographic display changed to show personnel files. Velrith recognized them as the humans his forces had captured during various engagements. "Do you recognize these people, Commander? Your intelligence officers have interviewed many of them. Let me tell you about them." Harrison highlighted one file. A young male human with scars covering his arms and a wild expression in his identification photo. This is Daniel Kovacs. Before the war, he was serving 7 consecutive life sentences for murder. He killed 23 people over a period of 5 years. Psychiatrists diagnosed him as a psychopath, completely lacking empathy or remorse. In normal society, we kept him locked away because he was too dangerous to be free. Harrison highlighted another file. A female human with cold eyes and a slight smile. Sarah Chun. She was in a maximum security psychiatric facility, diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder and extreme violent tendencies. She attacked and seriously injured 9 people before being institutionalized. Under normal circumstances, she would never be released. File after file appeared. Murderers, violent criminals. Individuals diagnosed with severe mental illnesses that made them dangerous to society. Dozens of them, hundreds. When you invaded Earth, Commander, our governments faced a difficult decision. We could send our trained military forces, our professional soldiers who fight with discipline and honor. Or we could do something else. President Harrison stood and walked to the window, looking out at the damaged city below. We opened the prisons. We opened the psychiatric hospitals. We went to every maximum security facility on the planet and made an offer to the most violent, most unstable individuals we had locked away. Fight the aliens and earn your freedom, or stay imprisoned while the war happens around you. Thousands volunteered immediately. Velrith felt something cold settle in his chest. You armed your criminals and sent them to fight us. We armed our monsters, Commander. The people who society feared. The people who enjoyed violence too much, who lacked the normal inhibitions that keep most humans from killing. We gave them weapons, pointed them at you, and told them they could do whatever they wanted. The military officer spoke again. You understand what this means, Commander? You are not fighting Earth's army. You have not even seen Earth's actual military forces yet. We have kept them in reserve. You are fighting the people we consider too dangerous for normal society. And they are winning. They are not winning, Velrith protested weakly. We control multiple installations. We have superior casualties. Your soldiers are having mental breakdowns, Harrison interrupted gently. Your medical facilities are overwhelmed with Kryn, suffering from psychological trauma. You have requested reinforcements 3 times, and each time your high command has reduced the number of soldiers willing to deploy to Earth. Your own people are becoming afraid to fight here. It was all true. Velrith could not deny any of it. Let me tell you what happens next, Harrison continued. You can continue this occupation. You can pour more soldiers into Earth, and they will face the same fighters you have been dealing with. Criminals who laugh when they kill. Psychopaths who see this war as entertainment. Violent individuals who have finally been given permission to do what they were built to do. Your soldiers will continue to break. Your casualties will mount. And eventually, your high command will realize that Earth costs more than it is worth. Or, Velrith asked quietly, or you can withdraw now. Leave Earth alone. We will establish a neutral zone. No Dominion ships enter our system, and we will not expand beyond it. You save your soldiers from further trauma. We go back to containing our violent elements within our society. Everyone walks away. And if we refuse? If we commit to total war against Earth? The room went silent. Every human in the chamber looked at Velrith with the same expression. Not fear, not anger. Something that made his skin crawl. Then we stopped playing nice, Harrison said softly. The fighters you have faced are the ones we consider disposable. The criminals. The insane. The ones we were happy to see leave our prisons. If you force us into total war, we will send our actual soldiers. The trained professionals. The special forces. The people who kill efficiently instead of enthusiastically. Another officer spoke, an older man with a weathered face and calm eyes. Commander, let me explain something about human military training. We teach our soldiers to follow rules, to show restraint, to value civilian life and follow codes of conduct. We chain their natural violent instincts with discipline and law. The people you have been fighting are the ones we never bothered to train because they could not be controlled. Can you imagine what happens when we unleash the ones we did train? The ones who have all that violent human instinct plus military precision? Velrith thought about it. The humans he had faced fought with chaotic aggression. They were effective because they were unpredictable and fearless. But they lacked coordination and discipline. If humans who fought with the same fearlessness also fought with tactical precision, you would lose, Harrison said, reading his expression. Not immediately, not easily, but inevitably. Because we have something you do not, Commander. We have nothing to lose. Earth is our only home. We cannot retreat to other planets. We cannot withdraw to safe territory. If you destroy us, we die here. So we will fight with everything we have, using every dirty trick, every psychological weapon, every ounce of violence we can muster. And we will make sure that even if you win, the victory costs you everything. Velrith looked at the humans around the table. They were not bluffing. He could see it in their eyes. They had already accepted the possibility of extinction. They had already decided they would rather die than surrender. It was insane. It was irrational. It was perfectly, terribly human. There is one more thing you should know, Harrison said. He gestured, and the display showed a new image. A massive human facility, heavily fortified, with thousands of soldiers training. This is Fork Redemption. It is where we house the fighters who have earned their freedom through combat service. After they finish their deployments, we offer them a choice. Return to civilian life with a full pardon, or continue fighting with better equipment and training. Do you know how many have chosen to continue fighting? How many? Velrith asked, though he already knew he would not like the answer. All of them. Every single one. They like fighting you, Commander. They enjoy it. They have told us that fighting aliens is more satisfying than anything they did before. You have created an entire army of humans who see warfare with the Dominion as the best experience of their lives. Velrith closed his eyes. He thought about his soldiers, traumatized and afraid. He thought about the reports from other Dominion worlds, where species were beginning to question whether the Dominion could protect them if they could not, even conquer a single primitive planet. He thought about his own nightmares, the ones where he heard humans screaming, even in the silence of space. What are your terms? He asked finally. Harrison smiled. It was not triumphant or cruel. It was almost sad. Withdraw all forces from Sol System within 30 days. Establish the system as a neutral zone. No contact unless we initiate it. In exchange, we will not pursue your forces. We will not seek revenge. We will simply let you leave. And if the High Command refuses, if they order me to continue, then we will continue fighting. And eventually, someone else will replace you. and they will reach the same conclusion you have. Earth is not worth the cost. The only question is how many Kryn have to break before the Dominion accepts that truth. Velrith stood slowly. His security team tensed, but he waved them down. He looked at President Harrison, at the military officers, at all the humans who had somehow defeated the Kryn Dominion without winning a single conventional battle. Asterisk. I will present your terms to the High Command. I will recommend acceptance. Thank you, Commander. For what it is worth, we take no pleasure in this. We know your soldiers are suffering. We know we have caused damage that goes beyond the physical. If there had been any other way— There was not, Velrith said quietly. You did what you needed to survive. I understand that now. I just wish I had understood it before we came here. As Velrith left the building with his security team, he looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, his fleet waited. Thousands of Kryn soldiers who thought they were conquerors. They had no idea they were really prey that had wandered into a predator's den. 2 weeks later, the Kryn Dominion officially withdrew from Sol System. The High Command issued a statement saying that Earth had been deemed unsuitable for integration due to cultural incompatibility. They did not mention the psychological casualties. They did not mention the soldiers who still woke up screaming from nightmares of human faces painted like demons, charging through plasma fire. They did not mention that for the first time in 200 years, the Dominion had retreated from a species less advanced than themselves. On Earth, the human governments quietly returned the volunteer fighters to their various institutions. Some received pardons as promised. Others chose to remain in military service, joining special units designed to handle situations too dangerous or too morally complex for regular forces. In a secure command center deep beneath the surface, General Martinez reviewed the final casualty reports. Earth had lost 12,000 fighters during the 3-month occupation. The Kryn had lost 3,400 soldiers to combat and over 4,000 to psychological casualties, severe enough to end their military careers. A younger officer approached Martinez. Sir, the last Kryn ship has left Sol System. We won. Martinez did not smile. We did not win. We just convinced them that defeating us would cost more than victory was worth. That is not the same thing. But they are gone. Earth is safe. For now. But they will remember us. The whole galaxy will remember us. We have become the species that fights with monsters. That is the reputation we will carry into the stars. Martinez looked at a photo on his desk. It showed Earth from space, beautiful and blue. We survived by releasing the worst parts of ourselves. I just hope that when we meet other species, we can remember how to put those parts back in their cages. The officer said nothing. They both knew the truth. Humanity had crossed a line. They had shown the galaxy what they were capable of when threatened. There was no going back from that. In his flagship, now leaving Sol System, Commander Velrith sat alone in his quarters. He had written his report to the High Command. He had recommended that Earth be classified as a quarantine world, too dangerous for contact. He had included all the data, all the psychological profiles, all the evidence that humans were fundamentally different from every other species the Dominion had encountered. His final line had been simple. They are not soldiers. They are survivors. And survival is not a skill. It is an instinct that makes them more dangerous than any weapon we possess. The report was accepted. Earth was added to the Dominion's list of forbidden worlds. And across the galaxy, a new truth began to spread among spacefaring species. Avoid Sol System. Avoid the blue planet. Avoid the humans, because humanity had not sent their generals to fight the Dominion. They had sent their psycho-killers in army suits, and the Empire had stood in disbelief as they realized too late what that meant. Some species were born to conquer the stars. Humanity was born to survive than not, and survival, as the Dominion learned, was far more terrifying than conquest.